Good morning. I only need one book. We're starting on page 91 with our word chart for legal of the book one, the little book. And our organizational chart shows that the legal department consists of three divisions: prosecution division, the city clerk's office, and then the civil division. Our goals and mission statement priorities are on page 93, 94, 95. And you can read those. I'm happy to answer any questions, but what I'd like to point out is that as a general rule, our department is reactive. There's only so much we can do to be proactive because we're a service organization. Our prosecutors help the police department enforce the laws. Our civil division help you form policies, write ordinances, help the departments write contracts and do those other things. And the city clerk's office keeps track of all the paperwork. So when it comes to goals and statistics, there's not a whole lot we can measure. We will be looking at some of those issues and be looking for things that we actually have control over. So in the future, you may see some things as opposed to, for instance, on page 95, where we talk about resolutions and ordinances prepared. You may see some information from the clerk's office about records management, where we're going to start looking at our backlog of records that we're retaining and trying to get rid of those things that we're not required to keep anymore. For the prosecution division, we may look at looking at some things perhaps related to some of the processing that we have control over. We don't have control over court schedules as a general rule. So you may see some changes, but this is where we are for right now. Our budget for the next biennium is a status quo budget right now. We're just maintaining the same salaries and training that we're required to keep. All of our attorneys are required to get 45 credits of continuing legal education every 3 years. We try to do that in the most efficient, cost-effective way possible, so you'll see a lot of money in our budget for training and conferences, but the Washington State Association of Municipal Attorneys, the Washington State Prosecutors Association put on very cost-effective training. If you go to the private sector for private sector training, it starts at about $150 to $200 an hour for those things, where if I send my attorneys to the Association of Municipal Attorneys, it's less than $1,000 generally, and you get half of the credits you need for an entire year worth of training. So we're trying to be cost effective in doing that. Same with the clerks. The city clerks and deputy clerks are required to maintain a certain level of certification to keep their certifications as municipal clerks. And with our records clerks, we're going to be doing a lot more public records training. So that's sort of the overview for our budget for right now. The big change for the next biennium is on page 266 under program improvements, and what we're asking council for is a third records clerk. We are on target right now to go from about 3,300, we processed 4,300 records requests in 2016, almost 44 in 2017, and we're on target to receive up to 5,000 public records requests this year. Our city clerk and deputy clerk over the last year spent between 24 and 30 hours each week, each of them, in processing public records. What that means is that they can't do the other clerk work that they need to do. They can't do records management. They can't go out and train the departments to help them do records management. So what we're asking for a third records clerk to help do the public records and help with the records management that'll let our city clerks focus more on overall systems management issues.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, Steve. On page 95, with the criminal misdemeanor cases filed, I'm curious, in thinking about the ordinance that was passed last council meeting, and maybe perhaps a revision to that in the future potentially with respect to identity theft, if that does get changed. Thinking about that, I see a very flat line for the number of cases filed. Would you think that that might need to be revised if I mean, would we anticipate an increased caseload?
No, not based just on that change. As we discussed at the study session last night, right now, when the standards are met, our prosecutors are charging those as an attempted felony, which brings it down to the gross misdemeanor level. So when council adopted the other 3 code sections, and if council adopts this one, it doesn't change the number of cases filed, it changes the character of it. It changes it from an indirect, an attempted case to an actual committed case.
And potentially a more successful prosecution rate?
That is our hope.
Okay, thanks.
And so that's our request from the department, is for an additional records clerk. Will let us start to catch up and get ahead on records management. I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Councilmember West.
Currently, we have a temporary third person, I believe.
Yes, but one of our records clerks just resigned for personal reasons, and so we are doing a little bit of shifting. Our city clerk is retiring after 26 years. We're very sad about that, but the mayor has appointed Sean, our deputy clerk, to be the city clerk. We are moving Teresa Mattingly, who's one of our records clerks, into the deputy position, so we're filling that position, recruiting for that right now, and also looking at we've got money in the budget for temporary support for a records clerk. So we've shifted a bunch of folks around, but we still have that need for one more person.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel, did you have a question?
Has that just happened recently?
Yes, all since I've been here.
Leaving? Yeah, okay.
Councilmember West.
Thank you. I really support the need for a third person. I know that for a couple of weeks or months, we've had a third temporary person, and it's allowed us to have our clerks spend a little bit more time on our minutes and stuff. And so I really think that we do need to be responsive to that request. Thank you.
Any other questions about the legal department? Thank you.
Thank you.